ecosystem research or people in the observation community, like those around GOOSE, the Global Ocean Observing System, and so on. Now, whether or not this is sufficient or adequate is something that's probably open to discussion, but just in terms of where we've been, how we've been sort of structuring our thinking to this point, I think that's the way we've been proceeding. Yeah. Oh, okay. I was just let's see. There was one in the back here. So the back here, and then
it's a response to it.
Let's go over here first.
Thank you, Michelle Scobie from Trinidad and Tobago. My background is international law and more recently environmental governance, and the two interact quite closely. As we are looking at a framework for governance, or how we can foresee the improvement of such a framework, one of the things that I think is lacking, or perhaps we could focus on, is the importance of the international economic order, because a lot of international investment is now being focused more on oceans. There's work being done on deep sea research for harvesting of nodules, etc. In addition to which, the more difficult sources of petroleum, people, BPs, etc., going more into deep ocean drilling. So I also sit in other forums, which are pure investment forums, and one sees their approach to oceans, and normally they aren't involved in type of ocean discussions that the environmentalists are having. And I think it would be useful to have some interaction between the two, because you see where the money is going in the next 20, 30 years in terms of investments, and we need to be part of that governance discussion, otherwise we just pick up the pieces where they sometimes we don't.
That's a really nice comment. I think there are plenty of familiar issues that need attention, but thinking about the emerging issues, the things that are now looming on the horizon, seem to me to be particularly interesting from the point of view of what we might contribute. So, I mean, there are questions of deep seabed mining, bioprospecting, ocean scale aquaculture, where you have tuna ranching and stuff. So these are kind of issues that are already visible on the horizon, but at a sufficiently early stage, so it might be particularly useful or constructive or helpful to be looking at some of those questions. So, yes, please.
Hello, my name is Atsushi Ishii from Tohoku University. Some practical tips to involve fisheries managers and the practitioners in the fisheries issue. So I'm involved in a big social science research project on international tuna fisheries management governance and international tuna fisheries governance, and we are traveling to all the regional fisheries management organizations on tuna. And when I introduced myself so I'm a political scientist, so then I got this reply, oh, you are a scientist that manipulating your work, so that it's political scientist. So, so then I tried to, I'm a social scientist, then I got the response that, oh, you're doing some analysis on the social dimensions of fisheries. That means that it's the some fisheries village and the culture therein. But that's not what I'm doing. So, so my point is that I think that the practitioners in fisheries issue at least don't understand what governance studies are. So I think it's important to explain.
I had a, sorry, question. I had a response or reflection on this comment about the need for mediators, but I think it picks up also on Sushisan's comment, which is people not understanding what is it that I'm saying that I'm doing. And I think, I don't know, I'm sure somebody here knows who it was, but I heard somebody say, quoting someone who said that the only thing farther away from humankind than outer space is the deep sea. And so, in a way, as we have a discussion about oceans, we're really talking about something that has a quality that really is exceptional. And where interdisciplinarity is not a luxury, but a necessity. And I think that these questions about how is that space operationalized, it's a bit of a parochial point because I'm trying to advance a discourse about taking interdisciplinary methodology as a research study object. But I would suggest that in this discussion context, it's helpful to ask that question: how are we hearing each other across the disciplines and across the dialogues? And just give one example, since we're having an open discussion here. In a text I wrote recently, we used the example of the relationship between a rotifer taxonomist and an anthropologist. So we may have an interdisciplinary community in dialogue, and you might imagine that these are the two people least connected. But from an epistemological point of view, while their ontologies are completely incompatible, epistemologically they have an almost identical way of relating to their study object, which is about a slow, discursive, and logical accumulation of rough data about the character of this very particular thing that they want to describe but never really define. So it's just an example of, I think, the innovative ways that we need to start thinking about the way these dialogues are managed, and to recognize that they are dialogues that include a lot of misunderstanding. And if we don't formalize that misunderstanding, whether it's through mediators or methodologies, particularly here, we run the risk of getting terribly, terribly lost.
Your initial comment about the one thing we know less about than space is the deep sea puts me in mind of a comment. Leads to the question of whether we need to be especially careful in making analogies when it comes to governance between terrestrial systems and marine systems. The oceans are three-dimensional. They are, as you suggest, relatively opaque in many respects, and even more important, they're quite dynamic. And so much of our experience with governance comes from our work with terrestrial systems, but it may very well be that we need to be particularly careful about whether we can draw analogies from our richer, longer experience with terrestrial systems that are useful or constructive when it comes to dealing with marine systems. Yes.
So picking up on that exact wonderful point, there's several of the content fields which Lily pointed out: land-based pollution and acidification, and the third one was overfishing. At least 2 of the 3 of those are not, in fact, matters. They're the kinds of ocean governance one describes when standing on the shore. The sorts of things that need to be governed are not out there, but they're in fact here.